and Marriage Detroit. New series premieres Saturday, June 24th at 9/8 Central on OWN.
My name is Nigeria Chambers of Big Oak Belt Media. It is a pleasure to talk to the Thompsons today ahead of the series premiere of Love and Marriage Detroit coming to OWN June 24th. How you two feeling?
Good.
Excellent.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh man, checked out the first episode, and I know everybody had all the questions for you two because what a lot goes on in the Thompson household. But I think there is a bit of there's a bit of peace within everything. I know folks are going to have questions about the man movement and what does that mean and whatnot. But I do think truly, Anthony, your intentions behind it is to show grace to Black men, the grace that society does not really have an avenue for. It's why you don't hear a lot of folks talk about the man movement, or I've heard of previous, iterations of the man movement, because I feel, Anthony, you're trying to really change the narrative that, men, especially Black men, deserve grace as well too. Along with that, and I hope that outside of the first episode, we do continue to hear more about this. But I wanted to collectively ask you two, in terms of this, especially for you, Anthony, and in your support, LaToya, how do you focus the mental health within all of this?
That's interesting. You ask about mental health. I grew up around it because my father he ran mental health hospitals. So, and then he did youth development. Mm-hmm. So he ran several hospitals, the whole District of Columbia, through Ohio, through Michigan, Wayne Centers, all the way down to Youthville, Detroit, building a $35 million facility for youth. So I know quite a bit when it comes to youth development and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you, LaToya, anything out there?
I think for him, the man's movement, I'm a supporter. It's something that, again, he's grown up around it. I as well. My parents are both psychologists and social workers. So we're used to talking about.
They're bishops and pastors. Thank you.
They're bishops and pastors.
She's a PK.
Too. Thank you. But, we're used to talking about our emotions and feelings. And you'll see that play out through the season is that the biggest thing is communication and how we communicate with one another, but not only how we communicate with other relationships, and how this works affects how our relationships affect others. So I think it's something that, we talk about it a lot now, which I'm glad that we're shining a light on mental health, but how to navigate it and seeing that evolve and seeing us do the work is the biggest thing, because you don't necessarily see the work.
And faith and mental health ties into each other. Yeah. It's all through the word of God. Like if you really read the word. Mm-hmm. So like the man's movement is so focused on men building in faith, men leading their households, men learning how to effectively do business, to effectively do community work, all of those things. So that's what the man's
So I did the math, and the first episode highlights that Father's Day is around the corner. Father's Day is around the corner now. So I would say, it's been a year since it's been filmed here. LaToya, you talked about a conflict that the two of you had, and this is when Anthony had an opportunity to meet with the folks of Disney for some work, and I guess, Anthony, you realize how big the opportunity is, and I listen. Disney knock on my door, I'm running too. So I was like, he was like, I'll be right there, But beyond that, there seems to just be a lack of communication with that. You already spoke about communication, and obviously you two are doing very well right now. In as much as the overall theme seems to be the lack of communication and how we need to make sure that communication is a forefront in every household here. Do you all kind of break down that incident and how you two was able to move past that incident in the season?
We do.
Absolutely.
Because we're still doing the work, because we saw even within that, there were some things that I was insecure about as far as within myself, but then I think it allowed me to also see how much he does for our family. You know, the physical absence of him, you know, really affected us, and how it affected not only me, but our children as well. And so we go through that process. We talk about how we maneuver and how we get back to us, because, you know, there was some trust there that I just didn't have. And so how do I rebuild that with my soulmate? And because I mean, we've thrown around that term of like separating and things of that nature, because in that moment we were mad and didn't know what to do. But when it comes down to the core, you know, this is my rock. And how do I get back to feeling like that and having that support? And we show that. We do go through that. And, you know, even how it's affecting us now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, reality shows always get labeled as messy and all sorts of different things, but it truly, I feel, you know, is has been used in the past as sort of Black exploitation. You know, I don't think it always have highlighted us in the best ways. What I really loved about this is that there's a lot of focal narrative points within this. One, showing that Detroit is a destination. Two, showing couples that have troubles, you know, conflict, but working through them. Also showing that you all are thriving individually, but all collectively. Okay. While this may be your first time in front of the cameras here, and this is still reality TV, I don't want to make it seem like it was scripted, but were there ever a conversation that you two had in terms of prepping to make sure that you two genuinely showed you two's couples, but also like the house around you?
Actually, this is what's funny, because of me working in entertainment, behind the camera, I was like, we good. I know the game. Yeah. But when you get in front of that camera, I got a newfound respect for people in front of that camera. When that light come on, it's not the same. Mm-hmm. It is not the same at all. She knew nothing at all, you know, but I think what this really helped too is her seeing what I do day to day at work and like, oh, okay, this is a lot of work, you know, and we have such a respect more for each other's careers and, you know, just loving each other, you know, so this was a blessing.
Yeah, I think that it allowed us to, I mean, were there times that we're, you know, talking about what's going on and what we felt comfortable with, because ultimately, you know, I don't have to do anything, and how it's also portrayed. So that's the biggest thing. We don't know what it's going to, I mean, we know what we filmed, but, you know, it's like it allowed us to talk more with one another. And I think that's, I mean, the biggest thing. People always say, oh, don't let it break you up. Don't let it get between your marriage. I get that. I definitely understand it. It allowed us to actually talk. I mean, we already talk a lot, but we have more meaningful conversations about things.
Absolutely.
And how we moving. Because ultimately I know he has my best interest and I have his best interest.
Beautiful, beautiful. Listen, for my final question, at the conclusion of episode 1, we do get a little tease in terms of things that are to come for the season. Anthony, we see you have a moment where you break down about support. This was beautiful. And, you know, there's obviously going to be ignorance to folks that see it and, oh, he's crying, whatever. But like, I think to see a Black man truly have his feelings on the sleeve, talk about, first of all, it's very clear what you give out, you know, with the AT Networks productions and what you do there, a man within your household here, what you do for your wife, and even supporting your friends. Very, very, very vocal about supporting Russell and knowing about his, Brandon and his potential, and just, you know, wanting to see him be his best self. Obviously, you're somebody I would want in my circle, just for you to have the next moment of breaking down, talk about not having and feeling that support at times. And I think this goes back to the man movement of men should be given grace and also should be shown grace as well too. Can you talk about the moment? And if you know what moment I'm talking about on the boat, can you talk about just how were you feeling at the moment, and how were you feeling immediately? I could almost say even when the cameras were off, or just when you were just out of that moment. Can you talk me through that moment? That point?
Yeah, it was I've never been afraid to show my emotions. Ex-football player, all that. And I've never been afraid to show my emotions because of the family structure I came in. I came in with a lot of love. And when it comes to her family, we really are married. We love each other. Like when I see her parents, those are my parents. Like it's no separation. That's mom. Yeah. So in that time, the spirit of my grandmother that raised me, that's passed away, had hit me, because it was like, to me, it's like I give a lot of myself, you know, and then what I've had to learn in this process and becoming a man was you can't look at everybody's capacity is different. And that's what I learned on the show with the wife. I'm a go, can do a lot of things. I can do a lot, you know, and then I would expect others to do what I'm doing or give the way I give. And I would be hurt when someone didn't love or give the way that I do. And I felt the way. And then the whole situation during that time on that boat, I felt my grandma's spirit. And it was like, I want to make my grandmother, my father, my family proud as well. So I have dreams and stuff that I've had since a kid that I've been working on. And like, I felt like you're getting in the way. And it's like, I support you in everything. I give you 1,000% of my heart. I want that too. That's where that emotion came from.
Yeah,
and for beautiful. Me to see it was a lot. So, and then sometimes I don't even know how to respond to something like that, because it was a very real moment. And he's not always necessarily a crier. So for him to cry, it was a lot. And so you had to walk through that.
Yeah, that's grandma's spirit coming down. You know, grandmas are the anchor of the family. That was grandma's spirit right there, with her hand on your heart and on your shoulder, letting you know it's okay, baby. You know how grandmas are. It's okay, baby. I'm right here with you. Well, it has been a pleasure to talk to you, folks. You can check out Love and Marriage Detroit, making a series premiere June 24th. You're going to have a lot of fun time with this, but ultimately, I think you're going to learn so much, and especially from the two right here. And it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
Absolutely. Take care.